I'm going live. I'm going live. I'm going live. Saying setting up, setting up. Sounded like you were a fan of hers. All right. Okay, we're almost live. Almost live. Okay, I'm live. Cool.
Nice.
Cool. We are live. We are live. Great. Awesome. Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday. I had to think about it. 28th of July. What a month. What a year. We're 7 months down, 5 to go. Not far till Christmas. I think from here onwards, it's just going to go zoom. So if you're not ready for Christmas, get ready. Start buying up your Christmas presents. My name is Zebunisso. I am a mortgage advisor with Mike Piro Mortgages. And if you haven't been to any of my webinars before, welcome. And if you're watching it on repeat, it's like on demand. If you're watching it later on, well, I hope you enjoy it just as much. So today I am joined by Gabriella Willment, right? And I was like, I had this brain pause from, goodness, I would say classic builds. No, not classic builds.
No, I'm joking.
Compass Homes. Gabriella, welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you so much for being so brave and jumping in and doing this with me tonight.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
So the first thing always that jumps at people probably is Gabriella and a builder. How does it work? Tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how did you end up where you are right now?
Sure. So I am Gabriella. I'm the director of Compass Homes in the Kapiti Wellington region. Yes, I'm a girl. I'm a chick in the building industry, which isn't a very common combination, to be fair. I got into the industry more through a passion than anything. When I was still a teenager, I built a tiny house. So it sort of started with tiny homes when I was pretty young, and sort of evolved from there. So it went on to other tiny homes, and then a townhouse duplex project, which then went on to a new build, and then a renovation, and then another renovation, and finally sort of ended up in owning my own company. So that's sort of a summary of how I got here.
That's amazing. I mean, because often in your industry, I mean, I've built a couple of houses before, you know, we've done a few renovations and stuff. I've hardly ever come across any women. So for me, when I first came across you, I was like, oh my God, there's a chick. And when I first met with you, to be honest, I was a bit like, does she know her stuff? But then when I met with you, I was like, oh my God, she knows her stuff. So it was absolutely refreshing. And your approach, very nurturing as well from the women point of view versus with the guys that I've dealt with in the past, very much to the point, but not much love around it. So I really enjoyed our relationship so far, and we'll talk about it a bit down the track.
Yeah, cool.
We'll give away a secret, so please keep watching if you want to know the secret between me and Gabrielle. You know, gotta keep people in ties, gotta keep them watching. So Gabriella, let me give a quick update to my listeners about what's happening in the market. I mean, in the last month, we've seen a few things happening. The Reserve Bank, you know, was it this month or last month? I'm losing track now when the OCR has lifted, but the OCR has lifted recently, and looks like they will be lifting it again, and probably by more than what everyone expected. So we're looking probably at 0.75 hike. What does it mean to people in plain English is that your interest rates for home loans are likely to go up again. So just as we thought maybe we're getting on top of it, they're probably going to go up again. The cost of living has increased. Petrol prices went up, but now I see petrol prices gone down a bit. So yeah, food is more expensive. So if you haven't started your veggie garden yet, start up your veggie garden, start rationing your food. I just read an amazing book this month about the kitchen front. Sorry, you know, in my house, it always happens. We've got 100 million children in here, cats, dogs, so there will be some sort of noise. I think a lot of people are used to it by now. So I've just read the book that's called The Kitchen Front, and it had really cool recipes about how to come up with something from nothing, and it was set in 1942. So I think a lot of people can learn from those kind of books how to go on rationing. But jokes aside, it is going to be tough for a lot of people, and I see a lot of those conversations happening more and more now, where people ring me up and they say, hey, what are we going to do if the interest rate's going to go up? A lot of investors are feeling a bit unsure, should we be selling now, should we wait a bit longer, what is it going to be like? So my advice has been to the investors for the past few months is that if you can hang on to the property, if you can continue to pay the mortgage without suffering, write it out. The property always goes in cycle. We've all been through it. We all know it. It's just the first time ever we all go through it after the pandemic. No one really had the pandemic before. We had a few other crises, but not the pandemic. So I think now that we're sort of going around this little cycle, if you can hang on to the property, it will go down, but it will bounce back up. So that's one of the advices I have for clients. But I also have a lot of clients that are looking to build or currently in the build stage or getting their contracts, and they're all very nervous because the build prices are changing. And this is why I thought I'll bring Gabriella in, a person that's on the inside of the building industry, so she can fill us in. So Gabriella, tell me, what do you see from your point of view?
It's definitely been, the last couple of years have been pretty interesting to be in the thick of the industry. Particularly when you stand behind a brand that try and offer, a lot of transparency and what we call a fixed build contract. So it's been a challenging couple of years in terms of forecasting costs and keeping them really tight and locked in. And then more recently, there's been a lot of talk in the media about material shortage, primarily, or most recently, gib. And also even just general timber supply. I think November, December, it was all frame and truss. It went from, 4-week lead times to 4-month lead times, let alone the cost increases around that. So it's definitely been, it's been challenging. And I think to acknowledge the private builders even more so, the smaller guys who are working their butts off to make a living, and they don't get looked after in quite the same way that the likes of Compass Homes do, simply because they're not buying the same volume. So that's definitely, I think, a pressure point, probably more so since the pandemic.
So how do you go around it? Because at the moment, we've got a bit of a chicken and egg situation with the banks. For instance, clients that I want to build, the bank want to see a fixed price contract. But I see a lot of other companies now, I won't name names, but a lot of companies are pulling out of the fixed price contracts going, we can't offer you a fixed price contract. This is the ballpark of how much it will cost you, but it's not going to be a fixed price contract. So the client can't get the lending because there is no fixed price contract. Therefore, he can't build. So a lot of builds are being stalled. Is that right? Is that what you sort of seeing in your industry?
I think that's fair to acknowledge for sure. For us, we still are standing behind a master build fixed contract, and I put it in commas because there are still elements that can move, and if there are huge increases, we have to pass them on. But it's as fixed as it will get, and we're still standing behind that. So, in terms of the planning process, everything still has to get quoted, and it still goes to a master build relatively fixed contract. We monitor it quite closely just so that if there are big increases and we pass them on to a client, that we do that at cost. But you still have to, I think there's still a solid process to follow to get to a point where you can offer them a fair amount of reassurance around the price that they're going to contract on, the amount of lending that they'll require. And I don't know, I think you can probably speak a little bit more to the new build lending side of things, but when it comes to the variance that they allow in a loan or what contingency they're actually allowing, I think they're just being a little bit more generous about that percentage.
Yeah. So recently, historically, we always allowed at least 10% contingency, but now the banks are saying, look, allow at least 15 to 20. And this is just to show how much the market has shifted and how much the banks are getting nervous as well about what's happening out there. So it's really interesting to see. And funny you raised gib, because that was going to be one of my questions to you. Does your company have any problems with gib at the moment?
Yeah, cool. So it was only probably 3 months ago that we were all squirming because it didn't matter how big you were, they were not able to supply. And we had a couple of jobs that waited several weeks longer than they should have, just in that reaction process before you can plan ahead. But now it's all on an allocation system, and we're just way ahead of the game in terms of measuring off the plans. You know, you used to be able to measure gib, and within 3 days you had it on site. Now we're measuring off the plans while the plans are in with council. So it's just about planning better and having the processes in place. So we're through that now in terms of gib in particular. But there was definitely a couple of months there where it was a bit stressful. It was tight. We had a couple of sites waiting, which is, you know, you've got clients waiting to move in and they're just seeing their site sit there for a few weeks, and that's a bit disappointing.
Yeah.
But I think the media portrays it a little bit worse than it actually is, or certainly from our experience.
Yeah. I mean, I've been talking about it for some time now, and I think in a few of my other webinars is that if I had enough money, I really want to set up a factory and just convert those masks that everyone's wearing into gib. Because the amount of waste that goes with the whole mask wearing at the moment, you know, single-use masks, people wear them, throw them away, people wear them, throw them away, and just absolutely killing my soul. So I'm like, how can we solve 2 problems at once? Yeah. Get the mask, convert them into gib, problem solved.
Sorted. Perfect.
Sorted. Yeah. Absolutely. So in terms of like, if I was a first-home buyer and I've come to you, can you talk me through a bit of your process? What happens when people come to you, and do they already have to have a section, or can you help them with the section as well? Like, talk me through a little bit of that for those that are listening and are thinking about, oh, should I build, should I not build? And if they listen to this, maybe that will inspire them a little.
Yeah. Great question. It sort of varies depending on the client that we're working with. We have some people that come to us with a section. They've got either a really clear dream in their head that we can sort of turn into a reality, or they've got no idea where to start, and we can sort of take them through that process. Others come to us knowing sort of what area they want to live in, but not too sure where to start in terms of a section search. So we kind of cover across, you know, design, planning, pricing, consents, construction, through to finding sections and helping people through that initial process as well. So it sort of depends where you're at and whether you've already got a section or whether you're on the hunt for one, but we're sort of there to help, whether that's finding the right section first or whether that's just getting straight into the design side of things.
And do you already have like a pre-made plans that people can use? Or do you work with the architect? How does it work?
Again, it's a combination. So we've got, as a brand, as Compass Homes, we've got 140 something and counting, what they call standard plans. And all of those plans can be changed. They're sort of a really good starting point quite often, where you can customize them depending on what the client's needs are. Other times, and I think probably more so in Kapiti, in the region that we're building in, we're working with people that have higher value sections, that have bigger dreams, if you like, and sort of want something a little bit more unique. And in that scenario, for me, it goes straight to the architect who's the expert, and they get given a brief. And that's where we begin. So it really does depend on, oh, there you go, you're so quick. On what your dreams are, on what your expectations are, on what your budget is. And we sort of work with you from that point. So each project is to their own, you know.
Awesome. And I'm just sharing a website so people can see where to find you guys. So for instance, if they want to find you specifically, we go into contact us, I believe, and then there you are. So
we are, at the moment, we're based in the Narara subdivision, which is just in Waikanae Beach. There's actually a lot of growth planned in that subdivision, so it's quite an exciting place to be based. Our next show home is actually going to be in the future stage in that same development. So that's where we are at the moment, and we'll be staying in that same area for the next few years as they're opening up into further development.
Cool. Well, here we go, guys. Here is their show home. It shows you how many bedrooms, the outlay plan, and I mean, it's absolutely stunning home. I've been there a few times. Absolutely love it. Cool bananas. So I'll just go back to us. Cool. I see some questions floating up to me already. One of them, which is very interesting, has the level of interest in new builds has fallen away?
Interesting question. So
I don't know whether it's for you or for me.
Yeah. Maybe we can both answer it.
Yeah.
From a build inquiry point of view, I think our inquiries are definitely less because sort of end of last year, even the whole sort of pandemic period, we still had a lot of people wanting to do investments. Money was cheap, and it was unusually cheap. So you can probably speak to that. But we had a lot of people that were just looking to invest their money into things. And so since then, inquiry has gone down. I think it's probably more at the moment about the actual homeowners, people wanting to build their dream home or something a bit unique. So from that perspective, we're still doing a lot. There's a lot of building happening. There's a lot of inquiry, but certainly less than there was. It was a bit crazy for a while.
Yeah, I honestly felt like when 2020 hit and the money started, well, at first, when the 2020 COVID hit, March, April, I was having a lot of phone calls from people that were freaking out. They had no idea what was going to happen. They had no idea whether they're going to be able to afford their mortgages and stuff like that. That was the first panic. So I was feeling like I was constantly on the phone, going through, calming people down and talking through all sorts of different situations. And, there was a lot of talk about mortgage holidays and interest only and that sort of stuff. After the panic calmed down, and then the government started introducing all sorts of things that they were trying to help the economy, and the money became cheap, I started getting a lot of phone calls from people that are wanting to buy, wanting to build, from everyone under the sun, whether they had a deposit, whether they didn't have a deposit. Everyone wanted to do something because the money was cheap, the policies were changing, so everyone could sort of get in on that bandwagon. Now that things have changed again, I'm seeing a lot of calls about, what are we going to do if the interest rates go up? A bit of panic, but also a bit more quality calls where people actually realize how much they can afford, how much they can assess, but not to the volume that it was in the last 2 years. So definitely different volume of calls, not 5 calls an hour, maybe 5 calls a day, but still, yeah. So I can definitely relate to you. So yeah, different volume, but people a bit more serious in the way. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing a little bit. Do you have many investors building, or is it mainly owner occupied builds that you do?
I think I can understand the question. It's a real combination, or it certainly has been, but I think more recently it's more the homeowners that are wanting to create something unique and special to them. If they were wanting to do an investment, I think the existing housing market has softened quite a lot. And so the logic for a lot of people would be to jump on something like that.
And that's what I'm saying, no offense, but that's what I'm saying to my investors as well, that if you're looking to buy something, if there is a new build that's already built and the consent has been issued in the last 6 months, it's considered to be a new build in the bank's eyes and in tax advantages side of eyes, then buy a new build. But if you are looking to buy a home for yourself, and if you don't want to wait, go and buy an existing home, because prices wise, it's a bit better. Now, in this environment, how long does it take to complete a build once consents and plans are all in place? And has the lack of product pushed out timeframes?
Great question. And that's probably one that a lot of people are sort of sitting on. I just drafted up a contract today for a pretty simple sort of home. I sat down with my construction manager, which is what we sort of do as a process. And we generally work to 5 to 6 months as a simple build, from consent to completion. That's slightly longer than it used to be, but it's not unrealistic for a brick and tile type design. If you're doing something a little bit more complex and cool, it can take a little bit longer. So it's a little bit build dependent and depending on how much labor is involved. But yeah, as little as 5 or 6 months can be realistic. Yeah.
And I guess the consents have been the frustrating point for you, because you're waiting for those consents to come out so you can go and do your job, right? And if those consents are sitting at the council for as long as they do. And I mean, can you tell us your experience with the Wellington Council, with the Kapiti Council? Like, is there much difference between the councils?
Fair question. We mostly work with the Kapiti Coast District Council and the Horowhenua Council. We've done a couple outside of that in Upper Hutt, but there's a huge difference, I think, even just between Kapiti and Horowhenua. Sadly, I think Kapiti Coast District Council have a slightly poor reputation around their timeframes, their communication, their process, them utilising the software that's available. So we have a bit of a frustrating time getting things through. And then often, you know, you're trying to plan from that time of gaining consent, but you've got no certainty around when they're going to issue it. And then you get to day 20 of 21 and then they issue a huge RFI. You know, that sort of thing is very common in Kapiti.
Yeah.
So a little bit drawn out, and I think that probably reflects how many building consents they've been processing, and maybe potentially understaffed. But
and with COVID, right, everyone seems to be getting sick at the moment, and I understand council was running 2 different pots of teams, and then if one team was wiped out, and all sorts of things. How much is that show home?
That show home is not for sale. It's actually owned by someone that came along when we finished it and said, we want to buy it and we want to move in when you move out. So they will be moving in when we move to our next show home. And that's, that one's not for sale.
Cool. And should we keep extra funds aside for variations or materials price increases when we're planning to build? Yeah, you should. You should be definitely keeping some extra.
You can answer that one.
Yeah, self-answering, really. And is it worthwhile building while property price is going down?
That's an interesting one. I don't know, you might want to chime into that one, but I think even 2 years ago, it was quite comparable. In fact, building was cheaper than buying just because of the competition and inflation with the existing market.
Yeah.
At the time, I'm thinking, guys, it's a no-brainer, you know, like, of course you can build your own home with your own design, put your own flair on it, you know, not inherit anyone's problems, all of that. But it's definitely shifted now where the existing, you know, that's quite changeable, whereas the build costs are reasonably set, you know, they increase with supply material increase, but they don't fluctuate the way that the existing market does. So is it still worth it? It's so dependent on what your situation is, you know.
I was about to say, it's such a personal question sometimes. Like, it depends if you're building for yourself or if you're building as an investment property. If you're building for yourself, then definitely worth it, because then you can create your own plan, you can paint the colors you want, you can do all sorts of things with that, right?
Totally.
Versus, as you say, inherit someone else's problems.
Potentially. And I think as well, when you're buying an existing home and you want to do significant renovations to it, you know, that again is going to be done at whatever the current build costs are anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's quite hard to lock in those figures as well when it's a renovation.
Exactly. Now, can you tell me a little bit about the master build guarantee and what sort of stuff it covers? Because often people ask me, and I'm like, look, I'm just an advisor. I'm not. I mean, I build houses. I don't, you know, for ourselves and stuff like that. But I'm not really into it too much to know all the wordings and specs and that sort of stuff. So if someone builds with the master build guarantee, what does it cover them and for how long?
Sure. So the master build guarantee is there are 2 main providers. One is NZ certified or master builders, and they kind of dominate the market. Compass Homes, we are master builders. So the guarantee is a 10-year structural guarantee. It's really designed to cover you if your house structurally fails, which if your builder's half decent, it won't, but it's really just a peace of mind. Weather tightness, that comes into the guarantee as well. And the primary thing, or the initial cover, is your loss of deposit. So in the instance where a building company goes under, which, to be fair, in the last little while, there have been a few, unfortunately. So I think they only cover up to 50,000 of your deposit, which isn't typically going to cover the whole 10% deposit that most builders take at their initial contract signing. But it's something, and I won't name names, but recently a builder did go under, and I think there were 25 or more builds in progress. And unfortunately, this builder hadn't lodged most of the master build applications, probably intentionally. So all of those clients thought they had their loss of deposit to be refunded, and that only 4 of them were actually submitted. So there's the loss of deposit, which is the 50,000, and then the structural guarantee, which covers you for 10 years. But most of the time it kind of comes back to the builder anyway. Master builders will put you back to the builder that constructed the home, and usually it's a remedial thing.
Yeah. So for instance, I'll give you an example. A client of mine, they built a house 5-6 years ago. They've got the master build guarantee, and now they've realized that the shower is leaking. The base of the shower, it's leaking into the bedrooms. Is that something that will cover them with the master build guarantee?
No, so that comes back to the builder. You'd probably contact master builders, and they'd come back to you as the builder. You still have your LVP on the whole build, but that's more of a product fault than a weather tightness or a structural issue.
Okay.
So I don't believe it would be covered. That's not really the purpose of it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. There's a question. People are often scared to build. What would you say to someone who is in two minds, whether to build or buy, to put them at ease and get them to opt to build? Basically, how do you convince people to build?
Yeah. Look, if I was a hard salesperson, I'd go, it's an obvious thing. But for me, I think I see my role as giving good advice, good, honest advice. And my advice is going to be different depending on the person's situation. Again, if you're someone that has 4 children and works from home and has a dog and wants to create this beautiful home, you may have a different story to someone that wants to do an investment. And so, I think if you're building with someone that you trust and that has solid processes around the planning, the pricing, is a reasonably transparent sort of fixed approach, then I think your risks are reasonably low, even in a market like this. Yeah. Provided that title's due within sort of 3 months, we're still doing fixed contracts. So I think there are definitely scenarios where your risk is low and it's still well worth doing. You just sort of have to weigh up your situation, I think, and take it individually. Yeah,
no, that was a very good answer. And I think when you first started answering, I was like, and this is why I ended up with you in a relationship, because I could see that your ethics were pretty much on par with mine. So we don't do hard sell, we take care of our customers, and it's all about that advice piece. If you advise them correctly, either way you will win a customer, I think.
Yeah. And it's a good result for them if they've taken the right advice. Yeah, exactly.
Should we we're half an hour in now, should we share our secret?
All right, go on.
For full transparency, since you said so guys, Gabriella is currently building my dream home. So this is the full transparency out there. We've started our relationship almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. When did we first started talking? I can't remember.
I can't even either. I think we signed the contract in November 21. So through the consent and engineering, it's taken a little while to have nearly a roof on this week, but the initial planning was earlier, of course.
Yeah, because we bought the section last year in May, I think. Bought a section last year in May when the prices were a bit for sections in that development. We got in, and then suddenly everything just went nuts. Went a bit funny. And then I was driving past, I saw your sign for your show home to be built, and then I contacted you, and from there we went in together. And we built, full disclosure, I built the other 2 houses, one that I'm in right now and the other one with Versatile. And if they ever would come across this video, they'll probably be kicking themselves now, because I did contact them and I said, hey guys, I want to build with you again. I had good relationship, let's build again for the 3rd time. Nobody came back to me. Yeah. Maybe I was a terrible client. I don't know.
I can confirm that you're not.
But yeah, they didn't come back to me. So that was very disappointing that maybe they were too busy at that time. I know things were a bit nuts for everyone. There were a lot of interest and things. So yeah, then we got in touch and we showed you a few plans that we wanted to do. And then you went away, you modified them. And we went through all the stages with you that you've just described for people. So we went through design stage, we went through consultation on which colors we want, which kitchens we want and stuff like that. So that was a lot of fun. And hopefully my kids are not watching because they have no idea what's happening. And funny enough, my son's teacher, she lives right across the road from our house and she can see our house being built. So my son comes home yesterday, he goes, Mama, Mrs. Brown said that our roof is going up. Apparently our house is almost finished. I was like, oh no, Mrs. Brown got it wrong. That's not our house. Mrs. Brown. How could you do this to me? So yeah, so we're absolutely looking forward to it because that's going to provide us with space that we need. And this is why we opted for building, because when we looked around the Kapiti area, there were a few grand houses around, but they were all at least 20 years old, getting run down. You want everything refreshed. And after living in this house that we've built 5-6 years ago now, I just can't see myself living in the old house again. It's probably sounds very, I don't know, bad. But I find when I first came to New Zealand and I've realized how cold and damp New Zealand houses are, I couldn't believe it. I've come from a country where we think our countries are third world countries, but we had better insulation and better heating than most of New Zealand houses had. So therefore, we wanted to build to have that newer house with insulation, double glazing, that sort of stuff. So that's why when we decided to build, we thought, yeah, we need to build, not buy. So there you go, guys. The secret is out. Gabriella's currently building my house, and now she's been recorded live, and she told me it's almost done.
We might have to do one at the end, do a bit of a live video tour.
Yes, we should do that. Thank you. We should do that. So hopefully, in how many months?
Let's put a date on it. We'll lock it in. That'll commit us.
Yes, tell me. When?
Oh, call your construction manager.
Okay, so if I say this year I'm turning, a lot of people always ask me how old I am. So okay, another secret out tonight. I'm turning 35 this year. It's my big round number, 35. So do you think you can finish the house by my birthday?
Yeah, what's your birthday?
Next month. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, we're on.
No, my birthday is December 15th.
Oh, that's an awesome goal. Regan is already hoping to get you in before December, so let's hope. Okay. Well, let's keep him to it.
Yeah, because it'll be an epic party. It's my 35th, and it's my son's, because he's born the day after me, Amir, and it's his 5th birthday. So it'll be awesome to have.
And do it at home. Nice. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Set me the challenge.
Sweet. Challenge as well. Gabrielle, thank you so much of jumping in and spending the time with me. I hope you enjoyed it and weren't too scared.
No, I love it. It's great. It's a really cool channel. There's a lot of positive feedback about what you're doing and the transparency around the insights. So that's really awesome to be a part of.
Thank you. There are more questions coming, but I don't want to ask them anymore. I'm like, we already said goodbye. Come on, guys.
It's too boring.
Yeah. Because the questions they're asking now, I'm like, I don't want to ask them. They're like hard questions. Yeah. Who will supervise the work? How long have you been in the business? How do we pay? What happens if there's a problem? Go away.
How popular your channel is. We could answer them all day.
Yeah, I know, right? No. We're going to stop here, guys, because we will come back in 4 months' time. We're going to show you 4 months time. Almost 5 months' time. And we're going to go and do like... what we're going to do is probably we're going to sit down together next time in my new home, and we're going to go and show them our new home. How about that?
Let's do it. That's awesome.
Awesome. Gabriella, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your night and speak soon.
Oh, thanks for having me.